we're live. Hi, Ed. How you going, mate?
Yeah, good. Thanks, Josh. I was really enjoying that intro. That's fantastic.
I'm glad you did, mate. I grabbed some images just before we did this today, just to set it up quickly. I just did a little promo video with capturing some of the thumbnails you had on your YouTube channel and some iconic stuff like the second edition Armageddon stuff you did with Gaskell and the Blood Angels and that kind of thing.
Yeah. Gaz is now in New Zealand.
Really?
He went over. So there's an guy on Instagram. Oh gosh, I can't remember. He does lots of Legion of the Damned stuff, and he's a fantastic painter. And yeah, we did a little competition, and I sent him Gaz, and he sent me back an amazing Space Marine Sergeant, and his is far superior. He put it on a little plinth and everything.
Okay, I think I remember you saying that now when you were doing it. I think you were telling us about it as you're painting it or something like that. Now I remember that. Yes. So we've got a couple in the chat. So it's Carnifex, one of your biggest fans, mate, and co-host on the Crown of Command podcast.
Hi, Carnifex.
And my good friend Camillo, CSPO. So he's a great guy. He's been to Japan to come and see me a couple of times, and I know he's a massive fan of yours too, mate. So hey, Camilla, how you going, buddy? He's chopping up infinity miniatures. Okay, so I think now he's doing a lot of sculpting and modeling and that kind of thing, which is cool. So that's great. Robodog is here as well, and we've got Kim Nix as well. So thank you very much, people, for coming in, saying hello. Please say hello to Ed. Sorry, Rob. I've got Rob on the mic. So please say hello to
Rob's
Ed.
my middle name.
And we'll get this underway. So, mate, look again, Ed. It's really great that you woke up so early in the morning to come and say hello to us. Of course, we're going to get a lot of Aussies maybe here on the chat, and I think a lot of people in England and Europe are sleeping still. So let's see if they can come in and say hello to you. But, mate, what's been happening since the last time we spoke on the podcast, which is a while ago?
Was it about a year ago we last spoke, I think?
I think so. It must be.
I think I'd probably only done about 5 or 6 videos when we last spoke. And I think I'm up to 20 now. The last one that I did was a few weeks ago with the kind of Deathwing mini series. I did some Deathwing painting, and then I did a Deathwing battle report, a Space Hulk battle report, which nearly broke me. I kind of thought this will be a bit easier than doing a second edition battle report to film and edit, because it's only a handful of miniatures. And but the fact is that there are about 10 rounds, and you have to film every single little move. Actually, in comparison, a game of 40k is quite broad brushstrokes. So that was quite difficult, but it was really well received. It was definitely worth it, and it was good fun. And I don't think there are that many Space Hulk battle reports out there. But there have been big gaps between making Minisode videos. It's becoming harder and harder to have the time to actually produce them and make them, which is a high quality problem, because the 2 days that I'd normally have to do those videos, I'm actually working for Tabletop Tactics, which is a channel which I think probably a lot of people would have heard of. They've got a studio, a fantastic group of super talented folks working there, headed up by Lawrence, which is a real experience. It's amazing. I used to be in another life. I used to be an actor.
Oh, really?
I used to be an actor. Went to drama school for a couple of years, and after uni, and it went so well that I became a teacher shortly afterwards. It was quite tough living in London, kind of having a go of it. And in the end, I sort of packed my bags, moved over to the west, to Bristol, and became an English teacher for about 8 years. But I've always had that kind of burning desire to do a bit of presenting and do performative things and be in front of a camera and all that kind of stuff. So it's a dream opportunity, because I suppose one of the tough things about, as you'll probably know, Josh, being a content creator, you're self-employed and you're doing it for yourself, by yourself, and I think there are lots of advantages with that if you've got the right skills and the right disciplines.
I think it's talking about you, mate. I think it's talking about you. Definitely not me.
I don't know. You're much better lit. You're much better lit than me. So
no, it must be those dark shadows just making you look more impressive, mate. I think giving that actor look, But yeah, like I said to Carnifex, you got the voice, mate. You got the voice when you do those videos. Like that sets the tone, I think. And you're a good-looking guy, so that helps too. You're young and good-looking, so I think those combinations plus the style that you film those the videos in, caught a lot of ground and got a lot of notice, and people really latched onto it pretty quickly, and it became very successful.
Well, there are two things here. Is that I do mess around with my voice a little bit in Audacity. I do do a little bit of tweaking and things.
That's what I'm going to do
on that. And the second thing is I am older than I look.
Okay.
But I'll take it.
Well, you're probably a lot younger than me, mate. That's okay. That's good. Okay, lovely.
But as I was saying, it's it's quite a unique. It's a real privilege to be working with people who are all as enthused about the hobby as each other, and everyone has something different to bring, and you're actually in that creative space. It's cool to have these moments where you're just sat like, what should we do this time? Everyone just comes together and comes up with some fantastic idea for a scenario or a battle or something. And then 24 hours later, you have realized it, filmed it, and it's being edited and it's going to be out soon after that. Like that's pretty amazing. And there are not many jobs out there or opportunities to replicate that. So that's pretty cool. Absolutely,
mate. No, honestly, I'm really happy for you that you got that gig there, and it's well deserved. I did watch the one you did with them on the 2nd edition game. You were playing Tyranids?
Yeah, so it's Tyranids versus Blood Angels.
That's right.
And it was based on, I can't remember which White Dwarf it was, but there was a 2nd edition scenario called Blood Scent, which involved the story was that the Blood Angels were fighting the orcs, and they managed to ambush and destroy the orcs in orbit, and the war boss crashed in the jungle, and so a strike force of Blood Angels goes down there to basically finish him off and search for survivors, and then they basically borrow a page out of Predator because they find all the orcs dead and like strung up from trees, and the war boss has had his brain sucked out, and then just at that moment the jungle erupts and all the Tyranids come for them, and so that was a scenario which was written. Where basically it's a never-ending swarm of Tyranids coming at the Blood Angels from the sides as well, from the flanks, and the Blood Angel player has to escape the board, basically, which is pretty cool. Really thematic and really fun, and I think it speaks volumes of what 40K was all about. Then it was about telling a story, playing out scenarios. It wasn't, and I think the more I play 10th edition, the latest edition, which I'm sure you're very aware of and interested in, Josh, and viewers, totally. It is legitimately a great game. I'm not one of these grognards that sort of sees all progress and every new miniature and go, no, that's not a Jess Goodwin sculpt. I'm not interested. It's such a good game. You walk away from every game of 10th edition, mostly going, that's a fantastic game. I had a really good time.
Good. That's good.
But the difference is when you walk away from a game of 2nd edition or any of these older games, you don't walk away saying that was a fantastic game. You walk away saying, I had an amazing time. Wasn't it cool when? And then you talk about your models like, real cinema of the mind stuff, that this stuff played out and happened on the table. Yeah. Whereas I think in 10th edition, it's more abstract. There's more of a sense of that you have these pieces that do certain things and actually have equivalents in other armies. A block of Gene Stealer aberrants do the same thing really as a block of Grey Knight paladins. So it's a better game, but that level of immersion and storytelling with 2nd edition will always resonate with me in that regard.
Yep, no, that's fine, man. Like, I've never played 10th edition, so I can't say anything negative about it. The other thing I will say that's quite strange about 10th edition when I see photos of it is that the table seems a lot smaller. You're not playing on a 6x4. What's the actual dimensions of a 10th edition game? Is it 3x4 or something like that? Or
Oh gosh, that's a good question.
Really narrow.
That's a good question. I think what I would say is that when you set up in second edition, it is massive. It's 6x4, but in reality, the actual deployment zone isn't. So I feel like it's almost like in later editions they just went, why are we using these massive flanks that we never actually that no one ever really deploys in or utilizes, and also who has a table that big?
That's true. I think what's happening too, Ed, and I think what's happening with modern games, they're sort of shrinking the battlefield size to accommodate people's houses, to accommodate some kind of realistic playing area. Whereas 6x4 is really an old-fashioned games table. Harks back to historical gaming, and of course, people don't have the luxury of having a 6x4 nowadays.
Yeah, you'd have it in your library while you look over your vast Wars of the Roses collection, sipping cognac or whatever.
Yeah. I wish. Yeah, but 5x3. Okay, so down undergrowth says 5x3 is the size. Okay, maybe. Okay. Yeah, it just seemed like it's really crunched in. And when I saw that all the rhinos stacked up in a big line, like a Congo line in their deployment zone, it looked really weird.
Yeah.
But then I'm like an Epic. I love Epic. I love Epic Space Marine. I can't stop loving that game. I think that system replicated a huge battle of 40K beautifully, and it's tactical. It's just got everything about it. It's got the fog of war element of deployment. It's got really quick, fast shooting combat rules. It's got alternative activations. It just has everything in it. And you can play so much. You've got a huge scope of different range of troops and vehicles and that kind of thing. So for 40K, for me personally, I didn't really play it much during the time anyway. I didn't really play a lot of second edition in the 90s, to be honest. Famously, when I got my job at Games Workshop, the manager, Richard Gunson, famous for the Tale of Four Gamers, he said to me, do you know how to play 40K second edition? I said, yeah, no problem. But I didn't. I've never played it before in my life. When I got to play the demo games, I was doing it completely wrong. And he pulled me out the back and said, what the hell was that? He really gave me a good bollocking. Yeah, because I told him that I knew how to play the game. I had no idea how to play it because I was purely a Warhammer fantasy guy and an Epic Space Marine guy. So it's
I'd
love
to know what sort of stuff you were coming out with while you were freewheeling in that demo game.
Yeah, very much a freestyle, or just a what do you call it? Playing intuitively or whatever. I don't know. I don't know what I was doing. I was doing it completely wrong.
That was probably the second edition I was playing when I was 11 years old with my mates. CSPO says Tabletop Tactics have some of the most impressively painted customized armies in the land.
Yeah, dude, it's beautiful.
So shout out to Fletcher. Fletcher Paints on Instagram. So he's the studio artist, phenomenally talented guy. And I've had the pleasure over the last couple of weeks to actually sit in the painting studio that he has and kind of watch him work. And it's that bridge between being a really capable hobbyist and someone who knows their way around their brushes and airbrush and stuff, and then like the artist section of that. Like he really is a master. Just watching him work is amazing. And I've tried to crib a few things. He painted up a Bretonnian army, so for Warhammer Fantasy, and did 2,000 points of Bretonnians in a couple of weeks in very short order, which is not easy from a assembly and preparation perspective, which we all kind of chipped in a little bit. You forget actually with generally if you're working with newer models, you forget when you go back to a lot of those models. I think a lot of the Bretonnian plastics came out in like 2003. You can correct me if I'm wrong in the comments. It's like around that time. But we talk about mold lines. Yeah. Do you remember when you were working with Airfix kits when you were younger? They weren't called mold lines; they called it flash. Like there used to be like these great big chunks of paper thin plastic that would come out that you'd be like, is this part of the model or do I need to break this off? and that's kind of what you're working with. So the cleanup on those was extensive, and also we decided to go with a quartered scheme for the real kind of, I suppose, the sort of Agincourt type French look, and to be knocking out 2,000 points of a quarter scheme looking as phenomenal as they are is quite a thing. And and many more old world armies on the horizon as well.
Wow.
He's super talented and a very nice bloke as well.
Oh, that's lovely. I have to check out his Instagram account, because I saw some images. Obviously, I've seen some of the videos, and I'm really impressed with the terrain, the tables, the miniatures. It's the ideal kind of studio setup where you got the cameraman, you got, like you said, you got an entire team of people behind this project.
Yeah. Although, I mean, the cool thing that what Fletcher can do is he can almost like independently film his videos, and then he can kind of hand them over next door and they get edited for him, which is a pretty enviable situation. I'd love to do that with Minisodes. Like, here's the footage, off you go. But I also, just while I'm thinking about it, he did a fantastic, it's a Sons of Horus video. So it's a heresy. He's had a little side project of heresy miniatures. And whether you're interested in Sons of Horus or not, it's actually a great video just to watch a series of kind of techniques, because he sort of zooms into, here's how I do faces, here's how I do oils, here's how I use, there's a little bit of color theory in there. And so it's actually, there is a couple of skills in there that are all just kind of applicable. And I think it's also paced in such a way that it doesn't sort of drive you out sometimes. I think some painting videos, they either move too quickly and you just kind of go, well, I don't know how to do that. But it's done in such a way where you also see what he's doing, how he manipulates the paint, how he uses the brush. And I think that's the missing thing in so many painting tutorials, is I actually want to see how you do it, because that's where the real learning is. Like, anyone can buy the products, anyone can slap them on a model. Yeah. But the real skill is actually how you apply it, I feel.
Yes.
Anyway, I'll try not to continue plugging Tabletop Tactics.
No, please.
That's not why I'm here. But
if he needs another commission painter, just let him know. I'm available.
Absolutely. Well, look, we're super interested in Old World at the moment, and there are also some very, and there will be some. Let's say there's some older models, some older armies, kind of waiting in the wings, that will be making their way onto the channel soon. There'll be a big nostalgia hit for some folks.
Fantastic. Okay, that's great. I'm glad that like I said, I'll have to check out more of his videos at Tabletop Tactics. I've only seen the one that you're in, so I need to, now that I know you're sort of doing that more regularly, I need to go back and check it out.
Yeah. So there are currently 2 second edition videos on there. One is sort of part one. One is the Blood Scent video. Blood Angels versus Tyranids, and that's straight out of a White Dwarf. And Lawrence and I played that, and he wanted to do something slightly different for the channel, kind of. So I wrote a script afterwards, like I would with Minisodes, and we recorded afterwards and overlaid it over the battle report to give it more of a kind of Minisodes-esque second edition White Dwarf feel, which took quite a long time, I can tell you. And then On Demand, which is their kind of paid for channel, there's part 2, which is cool, which was a campaign that we made up, which is basically the Blood Angels coming back in force to deal a death blow to the Tyranids and save the universe.
Wow. Okay. All right. So I don't even know about this paid service thing. So that's like what what's the other place? The other guys do it in Canada, like Mini Vault or whatever. It's
so I think I'm right in saying that Mini Wargaming were kind of the first to come up with that they produce all these videos for YouTube, and then they say, hey, we've got all these other videos in the vault that you can watch. So it's Tabletop Tactics have a similar service. I think a lot of people are not necessarily aware, but I should stop saying we, because I'm a tiny part in this. They produce one free view video a week generally, and that goes out on YouTube on a Saturday. but there are many, many more videos and podcasts that are released throughout the week, like Monday to Thursday.
Wow.
So the Freeview content is a tiny portion of the iceberg of stuff that's like rolling out constantly. They also do a Dungeons and Dragons campaign as well, which is really popular. So yeah, really creative.
How do these guys do it? How do they do that all the time? I can't. That's just unbelievable. I suppose you have to do it if you need to make the money. You just got to do it, whether you like to, whether you want to or not.
It's a well-oiled machine, yeah, and it is amazing, and it's also it's years and years of practice, and I think refinement, and like as you probably know, Josh, like when you think back to when you made your first video or filmed your first battle report, it probably took 3 times as long and didn't look anywhere near as good as your latest one.
Oh yeah, it'll tell.
I mean, you've knocked out 2 in 2 weeks, and the standard of those is absolutely phenomenal.
Thanks to you, mate. I'm taking inspiration from you, Ed, from Minisodes. That's what
I think. I think you've surpassed me, actually. I think
really?
Wow.
Okay. Well,
yeah, I think
thank you.
It looks great.
I don't think so, but I thank you very much for saying that. That's lovely. But
they're very well lit. The lighting's good, which is a big thing.
Yeah. Well, I've got we close the curtains because I don't want the natural light to filter through and disrupt the lighting balance. So in Japan, we've got these huge LED lights in our rooms, so that just illuminates everything in here, which is a godsend, because if it didn't have that, the lighting would be terrible, and I need to get like special lights and that kind of thing. And so luckily, I don't need to do that. Mm-hmm. So yeah, but I think that the new formula, this new style of presenting, which really suits me, because I really wanted to do like more narrative style gaming battle reports. Mm-hmm. I like narrative gaming anyway, but to translate that into a battle report, I just didn't know how to do it. I just didn't have the skills and knowledge to do it. So I think your videos really sort of paved the way to show how you could do that. It just needs to be a little snippet here, a little snippet there, just a voiceover, just explaining things, and let the pictures sort of just tell the story. And I think, and maybe you feel the same way, I think now that I've been doing this for like 4 years or so now, it's not so much about the games, it's more about the miniatures, the cards, the nostalgia of that, more so than the actual rules of the games. I think that's kind of a secondary thing for most people.
Well, you're definitely showcasing the rules as well. I thought, all the psychic chicanery going on in that first game, like the librarian gating up to the patriarch and his brood and having a good go. I thought that's pretty awesome. Like, that is what it's all about. Yeah,
that was awesome. I wish I could get that Holocaust spell, that psychic power off, because if it did, it would have just killed so many brood brothers and everything in the process. It would have been great. But yeah, I mean, we played it as it was played. We weren't making things up. It wasn't staged at all at any point. Yeah. So it was just exactly how it played out, and that was the beautiful thing about it. So,
and is that, I'm going to go down a black hole here, but is that were the Gene Stealer cult rules, were they from the Black Book, or were they from the Tyrannid Codex?
They're from the Tyrannid Codex.
Okay, so can Gene Stealers in the Gene Stealer cult list, are they able to infiltrate?
No, I don't believe so.
Interesting, because they can infiltrate when they're in the Tyrannid list.
Oh, can they?
Yeah. I wonder if anyone in the comments can pick up on that, because I was noticing that the poor Gene Stealers are having to schlep all the way across the board every time. But maybe they'd be too powerful if they could infiltrate in a brood list.
Okay, so Carnifex says no. So
no,
he knows. I know that's his army.
Infiltrate. But Carnifex, can they infiltrate in the Tyrannid Codex? He's going to say no as well, which means I've done something wrong in the past. Can't infiltrate in the Codex.
Can't infiltrate in the Nid Codex either. Oh well, there you go. That might be a 10th edition thing they brought in later on.
It's definitely a 10th edition thing.
This is bleeding through. Awesome. Well, it makes sense that they shouldn't they? That they could do that. So, yeah, to help them get across the table. Exactly. Because in my last game, I really needed that gate spell, the Adaptive Power gate spell, to get them up the field quicker to get him into hand-to-hand combat to do the damage, because as you saw, people haven't seen it, they've just got shot to pieces. So that's the life of a gene stealer, unfortunately, if you don't have anything that's going to get you at the table quick enough. Unless you've got the limousine, of course. The limousine will get you there.
And did the limousine ever have rules in like a Citadel journal or something? Is it out there?
Maybe. Carnifex will know all this stuff. He's a living gene stealer himself.
I guess a lot of people could just run the Chimera rules and just have your limousine to represent it.
I think so.
Yeah, Carnifex 10th edition Gene Stealers have cool rules. That's very true. I've been playing a lot of 10th edition Gene Stealer Cult, and they're a lot of fun. Popping up everywhere, and they regenerate as well, which is cool.
Okay, so Camilla says they were in the Citadel Journal, so there you go.
I need to take a look at that at some point. Are you part of a gaming group or club, Ed? Am I? No, I'm not. Probably because I don't get to play out in the wild as often as I would like. Although, so in Bristol, we have a couple of places where people go. There's Bristol Independent Gaming, which is really near to where I live. I was there on Wednesday, playing against Grey Knights, playing a league game for Tabletop Tactics. So I keep coming back to this. So last week, Tabletop Tactics released on their app. There's a league button that you can click on, and if you're playing against someone else who has the league app as well, you can give them a pin, and you can put your results from games onto the app. This is quite an incredible thing. I would urge you to take a look. But anyway, played against a friend, and we had this league game, and it was awesome because Gene Stealer Cult, obviously very tricksy and bounce around all over the place. Grey Knights as well. They can teleport all over the place as well. So it was a really interesting game, lots of positional control and everything. But yeah, Bristol Independent Gaming. I wouldn't say I sort of belong to the club, but I do. That's probably where I spend the majority of my gaming outside of Tabletop Tactics.
Right. Okay. Awesome. Okay, and then Carnifex said, yes, you just proxy the Rhino Chimera. That's a perfect idea to do that.
Yeah, definitely. Sisters of Neat in second. Yeah, I have about 10 Sisters of Battle sort of sat in the back lines, and I would quite like to paint them up. I've also got some Cadians, some of the original Cadians that I think are beautiful models. I think one of the reasons why I don't get started on them is because I haven't settled on a paint scheme for them. You know, I think with the Sisters, I'd probably go with the traditional kind of black and white scheme. But with the Guardsmen, I'd probably like to go for the Necromunda Spiders scheme, the kind of tiger stripe trousers and black flak jackets. I think they look really cool. There was the scenario in a White Dwarf with the Sisters versus Necrons. It was like the big introduction, the unveiling of the Necrons. And it also came with the Sanctuary. It came with a little, like a chapel in the White Dwarf that you can build.
Yep.
Which I think is quite rare. And it's a last stand against these Necron warriors.
Right.
That'd be very cool to do a glow up on that chapel and play that scenario. Necrons, like the original second edition Necrons, are absolute unicorn teeth. They are very hard to find.
I bet.
And I think there were only about 3 units. There was the Necron Lord, there were the Necron Warriors, there were the Immortals that came later that were very cool looking, and then there were the hovery ones. I can't remember, but I think that was it. That was your lot as a Necron player in second edition.
That's right. And they came back, did they? They had some kind of rule that they would, just reincarnate themselves, or they just switch like the Terminator.
Lovely table in there to see what happens every time.
Right. I've never seen them on the table. I just saw them through Dice Hammer. The 2 German guys. If you play second edition battle reports, and one of those guys has, and it's really funny because nothing's painted. It's all just bare metal. And you just, because they do that quite often, because they just don't have time, they just don't want to paint them or whatever. Well, they do want to paint them, just they don't get time. But he's just got a bare metal second edition Necron army, and seeing those on the tabletop is just nuts. Like some of the stuff they can do, they're rock hard. So
they were tougher than Space Marines. I mean, they were very much kind of I think now they've leaned, because I think Necrons didn't. They're probably is this a true statement? You know how orcs have kind of evolved over time in terms of their vibe, like how they work and their aesthetic and things. I feel like Necrons have gone down that journey. They originally they were kind of, it was Terminator, wasn't it? That's what it was really all about. Whereas now it's kind of drifted into far more of a, if Gene Stealer and Tyranids are cosmic horror, Necrons are eldritch horror. It's that idea of kind of sort of gothic trope of the lost coming back to claim what's theirs kind of thing. But yeah, in second edition they were just pure Terminator energy, like unkillable, unstoppable, and they were like tougher than Space Marines. Yeah,
really tough, just insane. And
and as Carnifex says, they're calling on Catan shards and tripod walkers. I mean the whole aesthetic is really kind of exploded, and very cool. There's a lot more character to them as well. Like there are these little stories about these slightly unhinged overlords who are the puppet masters behind the Necrons.
Interesting. And plus it was, I think, in points wise, like I'm not all that read up on Necrons, but I think points wise they cost a lot more than Space Marines, so that your army is even smaller. Less models to paint.
You'd be running around with like 10 Necron warriors that are impossible to kill. So what are you working on at the moment, Josh? Like, if you're allowed to talk about any of your commissions?
Of course. Going on? So I just wrapped up and finished up the last project. So it was Blood Angels for Zane in Australia, and then Gene Stealer Cults for Carnifex in Australia also. And I wrapped up 2 Blood Bowl teams for James in the United States. So I sent those away a couple of days ago. So they'll be getting those in the mail hopefully in the next few days, which would be great, which would be excellent. Really happy about that. So now I'm going on to basically I had an Empire here, an Empire army from 4th edition, like 3rd edition, 4th edition, since COVID. So like since 2020. And it's been sitting in boxes and sitting in boxes and sitting in boxes forever and ever and ever. And then recently I started painting some of the models in it. But what I decided to do, in order for me to paint the army, I decided to sell it to my good friend David in the US and paint it as a commission for him. That's the only way I get to paint things. It's actually sell them, paint them from a commission. So I did that for Empire. So I'm working on that at the moment for him. So each month I'll paint it like a unit and paint up a character model or something like that. And that army will slowly develop and grow. And he'll send me some more stuff from the States to expand the army even more. So by the end, it should have all the characters, all the war machines, pretty much all the units. It'd be beautiful. I can't wait to see it fully painted. So I'm really happy that that's a big project that's sort of being realized now. It wouldn't have happened if I didn't commission it. It wouldn't just never happen. It would just stagnate for years and years and years. And then the Space Wolves be after that. That's the project that I've had for a long time. Just never got around to painting it. The grey intimidated me for a long time. So I just said to David, look, just commission me to paint these things and they're yours. And he said, okay, let's do it.
And have you got a plan for the grey? How are you feeling about it?
I've got some paints from Nostalgia 88 from Watercolors just before they discontinued them. They're really nice paints. But the current Citadel paints that I've seen from the guys like Goblin Green and Whiskey and Wizards, it's Ben. They're using the modern equivalents and they're just as good. They're just the same sort of color. So, but cool. The Nostalgia 88 ones are really nice and thin. And Camilo, CSPO, in here on our chat, I've got 2 paint pots sealed for him. So next time he comes over to Japan, I'll give those to him because I don't think I'll need any more than the 2 I've got.
Cool.
So-
Speaking of painting space walls and old stuff, do you remember
oh
this?
wow, yeah, I love those, man. Yeah, I love them. Yeah.
It was the first painting set that I had, and this is the booklet that came with it.
Beautiful.
And I would strongly advise you not to follow the advice on painting space wolves in here.
What's it say?
It's a guide on painting this Space Wolf Terminator.
Yeah.
Well, I read the one for Blood Angels, and I was like, yeah, okay, that seems relatively sensible. So it starts off fine. Base colors, thinned blue-gray is applied to the armored areas. The bolter is given a coat of Chaos Black. Fair enough. While the Power Fist and bolter casing are painted Sunburst Yellow. Okay, fair enough. It's a white undercoat that can be done. Mm-hmm. The Eagle and its edging are given a base coat of Shining Gold Brown ink mix. So far, so good. Highlighting. Now, bear in mind, you will have lined the gold, you've painted the grey in there, all that kind of stuff, and you've put your base colours down. The next instruction is the armoured areas of the model are dry brushed with Space Wolf grey. So you're dry brushing onto those panels.
Yeah.
Yeah, and that basically that's where it lost me. Just the idea of of dry brushing onto something which is, once you've applied all the other colours as well, it just seems quite high risk.
Well, it's when I first got into the hobby, I got the painting guide from that same era. I got those paint sets and all that stuff from that same time. So you are not so young, mate. If that's your first paint set, you aren't so young.
No,
you're not.
Maybe I was. I think actually I was probably way too young to really be doing it.
Okay, well
but my dad started me very young because he was really into scale modeling.
Okay, well that makes sense.
Yeah, because he had one of the coolest things he had, and I don't know if anyone will remember this because it was probably produced in the 80s, but it was a Tamiya, like a big Tamiya Sherman tank, but it was also motorized. So he'd made a sort of replica Tamiya Sherman, which was remote control and really heavy. I think it might even have had metal tracks.
Oh, right.
But that was really cool. Yeah, he had a lot of that kind of stuff. And later on in his life, he started working with balsa wood to make aircraft. And you'd actually have to iron on the canvas onto these things. It was fantastic.
Wow.
The 1/16 Sherman. Yeah, I think that's the one. That's the one. All painted with Humbrol paints and all that kind of stuff. So I was kind of, early memories of building models and things. There's always, you've got your white spirit and your oil-based paints, and there's just always that kind of that smell around those kind of things. And that was really I think my dad probably saw Citadel Miniatures as like a more accessible entry point for me than the kind of stuff he was doing. And that's where it all kicked off. But he spent the majority of his time actually doing it for real in the garage. I wonder if at any point, because he saw how interested I was, that I would actually move off miniatures and go into the garage with him. And, he would restore, he had a Jeep, like a Willys Jeep, which he dug out of a scrapyard. I think it was here during the Second World War, and it never made it over to France. It just, like a lot of stuff, it just stayed here. And it was rusting in a scrapyard, and he fished it out in the 60s. And he had that his whole life and restored it from scratch beautifully. And likewise with the Dodge Power Wagon, a Dodge Ambulance. He was very interested in the kind of the American utility vehicles of that era. He thought they were really cool. He just loved the engineering of it.
Yeah.
So yeah, absolute legend indeed.
My dad
had one of the Tiger tanks like that, but it was in the early 2000s. Oh yeah, cool. Yeah. Are you interested in scale modeling at all, Josh? Have you ever?
I did. Well, before I found miniatures, I was heavily into Tamiya, in the sense that I obsessed over the catalogs. I just couldn't believe that human beings, could make, the kind of dioramas they were producing. Of course, it's a lot of photography play in there as well, but yeah, they would create these scenes like there was like motorbike rallies and that kind of thing in the desert, somewhere in Africa or whatever, like Dakar or what it's called. And they
Yeah.
had,
Oh, yeah. There was a whole line of miniatures for Dakar.
it's amazing.
Dad had he made a BMW motorcycle with all the.
Oh,
It was probably like Marlboro stickers and all that kind of stuff.
Exactly,
That
like
was on his mantelpiece. Yeah, so cool. What an era.
And yeah, the way they photographed all that stuff was so beautiful. It looked so realistic, and I was just so taken back by. And this is like me being, 8, 9, 10 or something like that. When I first found Tamiya catalogs, I can't remember what my first kit was, but it wasn't until, and that was when I was in Bowral in New South Wales at that stage. And then when we moved up to Queensland, I was a bit older, and then I started buying some military kits like planes and tanks and stuff like that. And then I bought some like cars, like sports cars, like Formula One or whatever, and really wanted to paint them exactly like they were in the pictures and that kind of thing. So, painting every single detail, with all the enamel paints and Tamiya paints and everything. So that's what I did as a teenager, until I found miniatures, and that was it. Like, that was like the progression. That was like the step up. You could paint models and then use them in games and roll dice, and which you couldn't do with the scale models.
Yeah. I feel the same way. I think they're lovely things to have as sort of artifacts. But really, when you're honest, you want to play with them, don't you? That's what it's all about. You want to tell stories with them. Exactly.
That's what I wasn't getting from the scale modeling, but I really appreciate the art of that. Like people who can do it so well, and I know that Camillo, when he comes to Japan, he goes to the Shizuoka Hobby Show. So where Tamiya Hasegawa and other companies meet up there and that kind of thing. I've never been there myself, and I think maybe next time when Camillo comes here, I'll try to go there with him. And we can do that together, because I'd like to go experience it at least once and see what it's like.
That would be an amazing experience. I've been to Japan once. I was very lucky to go in 2000, and it's quite a strange memory because I went there in 2000, and I remember thinking at the time that it was like going to the future. Everyone here has color phones, and and I remember sat on a bus and watching this woman text, and her fingers were moving like a blur. And years later, everyone was doing that, and I was like, "Oh my god!" It's almost like she's synthesized with the machine. and going to the kind of electronics district in Tokyo, and you see all this stuff, like a generation of cameras and things which haven't really come out yet. Yeah, amazing. And I remember a big advertisement for Final Fantasy IX on the side of a bus.
Right, cool. Yeah, nice.
Yeah. But I'd love to go back. I'd love to go back for Japan. And I'd also like to go for the whiskey as well.
Oh, right. Oh, you're a whiskey man. Very good.
Yeah, and Japanese whiskey is really hard to get hold of over here now, because I think it was quite a well-kept secret for a while, and obviously the boom has happened, and now it's all quite expensive again. But yeah, I'd love to go. In 2000, this is Carnifex, people in Japan had color LCD, MP3, and internet, and we had Nokia bricks.
Yeah, it's funny, but I think maybe people coming to Japan now, it's kind of, they're sort of, it's not in the future as much as it was maybe back then. There's a lot of things that sort of held them back a lot in terms of technology, maybe not technology, but like Japanese websites is just so outdated. Like they're just so old, they're frustratingly so, and other things as well. It's kind of funny, but kind of nostalgic at the same time. Camilla said I met Guillermo del Toro the show last year. He was nerding out just as we would. Okay, so he told me about that. So it was a pretty big moment for Camilo to meet him up there. So that was cool. So That's excellent. So I'm really glad you got a chance to come to Japan, and hopefully next time you come, we can have a few Nika whiskeys together, mate.
That
Sounds
would be
good.
amazing.
All
That
right.
would be amazing. Yeah. What's this about Conifex meeting Guillermo del Toro?
Oh,
What is
that's
this?
Camillo meeting up with him. Yeah.
Oh, sorry.
He met him.
Well, it looks like everyone has.
Oh, everyone's met him.
Everyone but me.
So, yeah, morning to Mrs. Ed. Yeah.
Oh, yes.
So you're in her office at the moment. So yeah.
I
so,
know. I am actually trespassing at the moment.
When the hell are you coming out of there? I've got an appointment. So, Zoetrope Shop Bar in Shinjuku. I also met Dottore there for a Pacific Rim. Well, there you go. Okay.
Cool.
So thanks everybody for coming to saying hello to Ed and joining the chat. Please remember to like the stream if you can, please, and share it with anybody out there who might be awake to come and say hello to Ed as well at the same time. And please check out the link description down below. You'll see Ed's link for his Minisodes YouTube channel. And I please strongly urge you to go and check that out and check out his amazing content on there. If you're not used to it, I'm pretty sure everybody here has seen your YouTube videos, mate. I'd be very surprised if they haven't.
Okay.
So Camilla says, Ed, we're looking forward to more of your seconded content.
Okay.
No pressure.
I would love to. It's just time. It's time. And so when I started Minisodes, kind of I suppose it's about 10 months ago that I really started to just kind of crack on with it. I was working full time, but I was working shifts in a job which was quite not flexible, but I had because it was shift work, it seemed like I needed to sleep less, which probably wasn't a good thing, but it meant that I had more free time, and I'd have these big stretches of time sometimes, particularly during nights, because I wouldn't be going into work till midnight.
Right.
And so I just felt quite time rich, slightly fatigued and a bit blurry, but I was able to kind of do a lot of stuff.
Yeah.
And I think particularly after Lauren and I got married as well, there was a lot less project management and pressure. Suddenly I had even more time. And yeah, it was just a good thing to just kind of press on with. But I've started a new job last summer, which is great because it is only 3 days a week. And then I had 2 days where things with the channel were picking up. So Lauren was very supportive and very happy for me basically to use those 2 days to produce videos, which is pretty cool. I think that's why there was quite a big burst of energy, and there was quite a regular amount of them coming out. But as I said, those 2 days are now spent working at Tabletop Tactics. So there's a quite long, quite tiring days, like doing, particularly when you're playing a game, doing presenting. That's like a whole day of work on your feet.
Yeah,
doing maths for this poor brain, trying to remember rules. And then so it's quite difficult. I might get around to producing a video when if Lauren's away or whatever. But so it's not the end of Minisodes. There will be more coming around the corner, but they will probably be few and far between.
Sure.
But I will continue banging the second edition drum on Tabletop Tactics and try and convince Lawrence to do more. Because I do have a lot more miniatures which people haven't seen yet. Like I've got a kind of growing orc horde, because it was always my intention to return to Armageddon. And I did have this kind of pipe dream of expanding the original Armageddon campaign that came in the second edition box set. Maybe thinking about what happened before or what came after, and creating my own kind of custom scenarios and things. And then an even a bigger, more long-term one would be doing a Dark Angels army, and then being able to play the Storm of Vengeance campaign. Which
I'm going to beat you to it, Ed. I'm going to beat you to it. Okay, we'll have a race. Who gets there first?
You know what? I think you will. Have you got any Dark Angels, or have you? Is Dark Angels are next, aren't they? I've made that.
Well, no, because that's Paul's army. My first chapter was Dark Angels. I absolutely love them. But I think the ones I had I gave away in the UK before I left to come back, And then I started them later on. I think that was during, I don't know, 5th edition, 6th edition. I don't know, when the first plastic Terminators came out. I got, someone gave me a box set for my birthday. Brad gave me a box set for my birthday. I then decided, okay, I'm going to convert all these up into the old classic, the Apache, Indian dudes with the feathers and long hair and that kind of stuff, with green stuff and everything like that.
Yeah.
And that was going to be my Golden Demon entry. And I absolutely love doing that project. I think it's probably some of my best work back then. Spent loads of time on those guys. And then it evolved into a big Deathwing army.
Cool.
So I had about 20 Terminators all up at the end. And then, sadly sold it off before I came to Japan because I needed the money. Same excuse. Nothing's changed. And but yeah, hopefully one day I can get back to doing like a Deathwing army at some stage. I loved the Deathwing video you did, because I love all those old Rogue Trader models, and you painted them and everything. Yeah, I love all that sort of stuff. So
this campaign book that came just got surprisingly thick. I think it's probably the maximum amount of pages you can have for a paper fronted thing. But yeah, it's just the art of Wayne England, David Gallagher, Richard Wright, Paul Bonner, Fangorn. Like the art in here is amazing, particularly of the Deathwing. Like he did this whole series of pieces of art. There's a great one in here of them like moving through the hive, and there are like hundreds of people watching them make their way through. It's almost like they're pushing their way through the crowd. There's no fighting, there's no violence. It's almost like they're just kind of taking in the horror of whatever has happened to these people. Yeah, it's this one. People know this.
That's a Paul Bonner artwork. Yep.
Yeah, and everyone's sort of
brilliant.
And they're all kind of misshapen and gene stealery, but they're not fighting them. They're just kind of like, and you sort of feel like the Space Marines are kind of taking in what's happened to these people. So cool.
Actually, now that you say that, and now I think about it, Paul Bonner didn't do many Space Marine artworks. Like his illustrations didn't center around Space Marines or Terminators or anything like that. It was usually always orcs.
Yeah.
He just always did orcs, and so that's one of the rare ones, I think. He did Imperial Guard. He did some squats. He did the Ratlings, and he did Ogrins as well. But yeah, I haven't seen many illustrations of him doing actual Space Marines. So it's one of the rare ones. Yeah, but beautiful stuff. Yeah, I love all that. And really good to say. I think the Deathwing video is my favorite one of the ones you've done, personally. Yeah, I think it just encapsulates everything that's cool. I've never actually played the first edition of Space Hulk. I love the artwork. I love all the miniatures and everything like that.
Yeah,
the old original metal Marine Terminators and stuff like that. So yeah, your video just encapsulated everything that was cool about that era.
It's pretty much the same as second edition, first edition Space Hulk, but in terms of its default setting. But as soon as you introduce the Gene Stealer or the Deathwing supplement rules, I mean, I think Gene Stealer is when it really goes off a cliff in some respects, because they put all the psychic powers and a lot of the shooting rules for the Gene Stealer hybrids and like everything. I think it goes a bit too far. But Deathwing's cool because it introduced as a random mission generator. There are points, like sergeants and captains have new rules, new weapons, and that kind of thing. It starts to go from a really kind of finely tuned, well balanced kind of puzzler, because it is every Space Hulk mission is a puzzle, and then it makes that jump in Deathwing to kind of a role playing game. Where you can kind of customize your guys. I mean, that's purely for the Space Marines. The Gene Stealer player is just stuck, with Gene Stealers. But yeah, it starts to go into a very kind of thematic world. And around the same time, they also released Deathwing, not Deathwing, the Space Hulk campaigns book.
Yes.
there are just some amazing missions in there. My favorite one is a Gene Stealer attack on a Blood Angel fortress, and you play. I think, let's say you play 5 missions. The first 4 are you play the first 4 missions, and narratively, all of those battles take place at the same time. And so, in the final mission, your starting force as a Space Marine player are just the survivors from each of those missions. So every single battle that you have has consequences, and then for the final battle, you're just left with the remnants. And by that point, you've pretty much got names for them all. Like, they've all like done various kind of heroic deeds. You feel really attached to them. You've been on this journey with them, and then it's time for the final holding action in the bowels of your fortress, which is very cool.
I love that.
Yeah. Alex Chilver asks, Ed, collab with Bring and Battle Wargaming down in Plymouth. Yes. So I think it was last year, they organised a 2nd edition Games Day. They rallied a load of enthusiasts from around the country, and I was down to go, but I was rubbish, and I pulled out at the last minute.
Right.
I can't remember what it was, but I did have a very good reason. Unfortunately, I couldn't get out. I still have every intention of going to one of those in the future. If they do it again, I would be really up for it, and I'll try not to be such a flaky individual.
This year, it's on.
It's on.
It's on.
Do you know when?
We talked about it last episode. I don't exactly remember when it was.
Okay.
But yeah, they've got a special Facebook group page just for that. So I'll send you a link later on, mate. And
cool.
If maybe Richard will pop in the chat maybe at some point.
Yeah.
As well.
I'd love to do that.
I'm in one of the city. Just need to decide to play. Okay, so it looks like Kim Nix has never actually played a game. Played any game while I've just been painting for years. Okay, that's great. Yeah, cool. Okay. Well,
but your Discord is a good place to find other players from all parts of the world, isn't it? And make those connections and meet up and play.
Yeah, we have a lot of German people too. There's a lot of German gamers out there, which makes sense because they have the that big board gaming convention, don't they? So it seems like board games, tabletop games, is very much inherent in their culture.
Yes.
So,
there are 2 points to that. That's very much where my hobby journey began in Germany.
Oh, really?
Yeah, because my dad worked for Audi. So he took his kind of interest over into Germany, and we would go into Munich or Ingolstadt and go to the hobby stores there. And I think my general impression of model shops kind of in the early 90s in the UK was that they were kind of, they'd just be like piles of boxes, and they wouldn't be particularly friendly and not necessarily very well curated. This is just my experiences of model shops in the UK, thinking back in time. Whereas in Germany, they were always beautiful, like really well curated. They would have these display cases with like incredible dioramas and things. I just feel like, and I think it's generally the case, you can see it with just the standard of Golden Demon entries from people from Spain and Italy and Germany. Like I think they've always had a bit of a head start kind of artistically in that respect. And so going into a model shop in Munich in, say, 1993 would be an inspirational experience. And that's where I first saw, a box of Imperial Space Marines alongside all this other amazing stuff. So that's kind of where it all started for me. And and I'm hoping, fingers crossed, to go to, is it Spiegel? I don't know.
It's Spiel, isn't it? That's the name of the convention, isn't it?
So Lauren actually, her work, the HQ for the company that she works for is near Essen. So
Essen Spiel, that's what it's called, Essen Spiel.
Yeah. So we're thinking we might be able to tie a work visit and a board game visit together and go to that. Wow. Yeah, I look forward to that. So if anyone is out there, come and say hi.
Yes, well, I think I think Kim Nix is wanting to invite you over to play some games. So yeah, come to Germany and play with her. So, and her husband maybe. Yeah. So maybe you can meet up there. So Crown of Command community is vast and it covers every continent around the world. So we've got people from everywhere joining in. So, which is excellent. Okay, so that's nice. I hope you guys can do that because I think that's a wonderful experience. I would, I'm trying to imagine how big that place. It's like the Gen Con of Germany. You know what I mean? Like it's that scale, but it's just board games. So yeah, it'd be amazing and good.
I think I'm also going to the UK Games Expo, which is in Birmingham.
Right.
I think that's in June, if I remember correctly. Because Tabletop Tactics are doing a live podcast there. I don't know if I'll be involved in that, so I might be free to just to kind of wander the halls and have a look at everything that's going on there. So yeah, I mean, I've only been to one gaming convention ever before, and that was the one in London at the XL. Salute. There we go.
Oh, Salute. Okay.
Yeah. I went there in 2016, 2017. So it's probably changed and grown quite a bit there. But I remember bumping into a few people. I said hello to Carl from the Independent Characters, who was sort of like, in my views, like one of the first hobby celebrities, I feel, because he started his podcast in like 2011.
Right.
And I used to listen to that while painting, getting back into the hobby. When I didn't really know anyone who was interested. So he was almost like a kind of a voice from beyond, like a companion. I felt kind of part of the community that he was putting together in California. So he was quite a big influence on me.
Oh, that's good, mate. That's excellent. Yeah, great. That's wonderful. Okay, that's excellent. So again, guys, thank you very much for joining us. We have 19 people in watching now. So please don't be shy. Come and say hello to Ed and make your voice heard in the chat. And please ask some questions to Ed too. Guys, it's a great opportunity. You won't get this chance very often. So please ask Ed any questions that you like. And I think there was a question up here for you, Ed.
Yes.
I think Camilo asked you about your projects. So other Necrons, do you have any other Holy Grail Second Edition Rogue Trader era models?
Yes. I think so. There's a Holy Grail. The Holy Grail is the thing that I want but haven't got or can't have. I would love to have a full complement of the Rogue Trader Grey Knights. I think those models are absolutely phenomenal because it combines that. We were saying earlier how cool the Rogue Trader Terminator sculpts are. There's something about the way it's almost got. I'm going to sound very pretentious, but it's almost Geiger-esque, I feel, the aesthetic of the Terminator plate in Rogue Trader, because it's kind of softer edges, it's rounder. You get the impression that it's super heavy kind of combat armor, but it's also rounded in the way that that plate metal might be on a knight, for example, like a kind of medieval knight. And there's also something weirdly organic about it as well. There's all these things about it which were refined later on, and now even though it's the same profile, it doesn't quite have the same energy. And like the design of the Rogue Trader Stormbolter as well, and the Power Fist, and just like all the kit, just kind of, again, it's got this weird. There's something uncanny about it all. There's something oddly organic, which kind of speaks to me in terms of if there's been 38,000 years worth of technology into the far future, you can imagine that maybe that's what it would become. Like these are no longer just pieces of equipment. They've become more than that. And they're all these aesthetic things that have kind of been piled on top of them. That they're artifacts and symbols as well as being practical pieces of equipment, etc., etc. Whereas now I feel like the modern sort of aesthetic of a Space Marine is kind of like, well, this is just equipment and they carry it, and we'll stick a a purity seal on it to sort of show that it matters to them, but you didn't actually feel that sense of artifice on the object itself. Anyway, that's a long-winded way of saying I think the Rogue Trader Terminator armor is really cool and very special, and the Grey Knights capture that and then go even further, and they've got the sort of two-handed halberd that they're holding across their body as well, which I think probably had its own challenges for making that design out of pewter. So finding them in good condition is pretty difficult as well.
Yes. Well, it looks like Carnifex says
What's going on here?
That can be sorted out. So,
how is it?
Carnifex is he's kind of like the
fixer.
The fixer. That's right. He knows where to get these little treasures.
Yeah, so we don't ask though. Who knows what despicable acts of violence or eldritch pacts are made to bring these.
Well, he's a Carnifex after all, so just terrifying them, I think, just to give them over to him might be the way that he does it. So you never know. But so Camilla says, yes, it's the one I took when we played, because when Camilla came here to play with his Space Wolves, he took an Inquisitor model in his retinue as well. Mm-hmm. My son has fallen downstairs or making a lot of noise downstairs. I don't know what's going on. I hope he's okay.
Oh, that might be on my end, actually. I think that's.
Is it your end?
I think it's Lauren trying to close the door.
Oh, okay.
To our house.
My son is doing something downstairs. Looks like he's causing mayhem down there. So Jared says, "Do you like Warhammer? I'm into fantasy. Maybe. What's your fantasy army?"
So currently, this is a very slow grind on this, but Vampire counts.
Right.
I have a brick of 20 Graveguard, which are assembled and primed, and half of them are painted, and the other half I need to put the base coats on. It's so obviously there's a lot of excitement about fantasy and old world. The Games Workshop have resurrected it. It's really interesting actually, because I was never a collector or interested in fantasy when it was around prior to 2014. So I'm kind of new to it. But I've played a few games with my mate James. There's like a very small snippet of me playing Warhammer in one of my videos. Actually, I'm pushing some Skaven around into his dwarves, and I love the game. We were playing 5th edition.
Right.
So much fun. I think the aesthetic is awesome.
It is, isn't it?
I do. I it's also the kind of. It's definitely the system where I'll always play the baddies. Like I love the idea of kind of like hordes of goblins or skeletons or rat men. I just think that's very cool. I'd say that Vampire counts are my favorite as I'm collecting them, but Skaven are a close second. And I do hope to play some Warhammer Fantasy on Tabletop Tactics soon, but I'll need to get my head around those rules. I think it presents, I don't know if you find this, Josh, but it presents like a whole different set of kind of hobby challenges. And I think that when it comes to building and collecting and painting a Warhammer army, you end up needing to access your project management skills, because it is a long old process. And there are, up to 3 or 4 times more models that you need to get through compared to a Warhammer 40k army, and I wonder, actually, I was chatting to some people about this the other day, if that was one of the reasons why Warhammer kind of died a bit of a death back in the day, because it wasn't the miniatures, it wasn't the rules, it wasn't a lot of things that people like to suggest that kind of killed it off. It was actually the fact that it requires an additional set of skills which maybe Games Workshop were not able to kind of communicate or level people up out in the hobby community. And I think now that there are so many people on YouTube who will tell you how to do things, that they've got the contrast paints, and also they openly communicate with people out in the hobby as well, that actually they're now in a position to make it work rather than just selling an 11-year-old, 20 skeletons and being like, well, off you go. And they don't really have any of the skills or ability that's required to, well, let alone get those 20 miniatures on the table. And being able to do that for a 2,000 point army is just a pipe dream. So, yeah, I mean, I am discovering that myself, that, gosh, it's a bit of a barrier of entry for me, because I'm having to really discipline myself and say, come on, you need to sit down now and do this for an hour a night, just grind it out. Do you find that, Josh, when you're painting ranks of infantry?
Absolutely. Well, I'm doing it for my job. This is my job now, like day in, day out, just painting, regiments of fantasy or, and that kind of thing. So yeah, it's a big undertaking, and it's not for someone who's coming in as an entry level gamer, someone who's just been introduced to the hobby. And I've said this to other people too. I don't think I'd ever turn them on to Warhammer, because it's that huge barrier of like, you will need to paint between 80 and 100 models to get a decent sized 1,500 point list, for example. And I could just unless you're really, really into it, like I was when I first found tabletop wargaming, the first thing I saw was Warhammer 3rd edition, and I saw the big mass ranks of unit models, and I thought, yeah, that's it. That just attracted me more than anything else. I think if you don't have that, you just won't see it through. The attrition you need, that whole process of that long slog of painting all those models and collecting them and all that kind of thing, and putting them together if you need to, like all those skeletons you need to put together for your vampire count army. That's a lot of fiddling around and mold line scraping and plastic glue gluing and
the mold lines. Goodness me, yeah.
So yeah, it's for a certain type of gamer, and I can see why the skirmish model nowadays for most game companies is very successful. It's a very successful model because it's like 10 figures and you're in. It's that kind of thing.
They occupy a 3-dimensional space as well. They're on the round base. They don't have any other models around them as well, the skirmish models. Whereas as soon as you put something in a block, it almost becomes a 2-dimensional piece. Because they move forward against your opponent. They don't. I think the way that you see it and your brain kind of computes it, you don't, which can be quite demoralizing when you spend a huge amount of time painting each individual one. And I wonder if maybe my approach to painting all those skeletons was, I'm going to paint each of these like I would paint a skirmish miniature. Yeah. Whereas actually, I wonder, like, do you not cheat, but do you like lavish attention on the first rank and then do something a little bit different with those behind, or just in your approach, you're aware of the fact that they are going to be lost and buried in a load of swarm of models, or do you do every model the same?
Every model usually the same. Yeah. So yeah, except for like if I did Tyrion for the high elves, well, his paint job will be just I spend much more time on that than I would do for just an archer, for example. You know what I mean? So,
would you do every model the same if you were doing it for yourself, if you weren't commissioned?
Yeah, for sure, absolutely. Yeah, so for example, my commission work is basically what I would paint normally for myself. It's the same level, So
yeah.
But yeah, mate.
It's good. I'm planning the bit I'm most excited about is kind of planning the banners for them all, and freehanding some cool banners.
Banners, yeah, 3D. Yeah, you did some 3D banners. I saw in your Gaz school, Makari's got a nicely painted banner and that kind of thing. So you got some skills there, mate. You can do it, no problem. You did it on your land speeder too for your Blood Angels as well.
Yeah, I did a few. And the one I'm most pleased with actually is the one on my Orc War Boss with the Bad Moon symbol on it, which I based off a Paul Bonner piece of artwork. I was really pleased with that.
Nice. Yeah.
Practice. I tell you what, it's quite humbling though, because I have a couple of Orc War buggies which are like 95% complete, and one of the things that to get them over the line is doing their banners.
Yep.
And I have tried on 3 separate occasions now to
Mm.
sit down and freehand those banners, and on 3 occasions now I've just put them in the bin, which is bizarre, because all the other banners that we just talked about, first time, like just sat down, sketched it out, 2 hours later, done. And I don't know what it is about these banners that I'm trying to do for the buggies. There's nothing particularly complex about them. I think it's just time away from my hobby desk. It's like it's not putting the hours in and getting the motor skills down, and maybe there's a degree of the fact that I know it's all I have to do to finish them. I'm just not finding that zen place. So I was so frustrated the other day that I went on eBay and I dropped £20 to buy the stickers, the little stickers that you would stick on the back of your war bike or your buggy.
Yeah.
I was like, I'm not doing this anymore. I'm just gonna go for the stickers. But
yeah,
it just goes to show that you have to keep at it to stay good. I think you do lose.
And another alternative to that as well, you could find the scans, or you could photocopy them out of the books or whatever of the banners they use, and then from your printed copy, you just put some varnish on that, some gloss varnish over the top of it, and then paint over it.
Yeah.
So basically, you've got the foundations, you've got the template for you. You just need to paint over it just with ink or something like that, just to get the vibrancy up again, and that's it. But I can see why the £20 would have been a good investment. You've got the beautifully high gloss, high definition banners. They look just like the original ones. I've used them before, and I put them on some models, my High Elves, I think, because I had the High Elf stickers. But then I thought, no, this is cheating. I can't do that. It looks really nice, but I thought, no, they look like, because, I just didn't feel right about it. I had to do it myself. So I hand
they don't look as good, I have to say. Sticking them on, now they're there, I'm like, okay, it's done. But they don't look it's not quite the same as having done it yourself. It's not quite it doesn't feel mine in the same way that some of the other models do.
That's right.
Yeah,
that's right. But on my Banelord for my Epic Chaos Titan, they're the ones that came out with the set. That they came with the stick-on banners, and I just stuck them straight on.
Yeah,
I thought, I'm not going to muck around with this thing. I'm just going to put those on, and that's it.
Not at that scale.
Yeah, but I can see how useful. Yeah, that's one of the things. Now you brought that up. That was one of the really cool things about that, is that they released, all the banners for all the regiments, for all the armies in those little blisters. It's a fantastic idea, and they didn't do that later on. And I think banners are really important to have a really nice looking banner on your regiments. It makes such a difference.
Yeah. I think freehanding onto because on the Grave Guard, there is a banner, but it's sculpted, so it's sort of waving around a little bit. And I think there's a separate set of challenges in terms of how you freehand onto something like that in line with the fact, because normally if I want a banner waving or whatever, if I'm doing it on a piece of paper, then I will do it flat, and then I will manipulate it afterwards. I think it's going to be quite challenging to do that onto something which is already stuck in a different position. I want to do the very old piece of John Blanche artwork of the skeletons advancing forwards, kind of in darkness, and there's a big tree behind them.
Yes,
there's lots of things hanging off it, and there's a banner, and it just says it's a skull, and it just says Legion underneath.
That's right. Yeah,
I want to do that for when eventually I have a big brick of skeletons crunching forwards.
Yeah, that'd be good, mate. I'm really looking forward to that. I'm sure the other guys are looking forward to that too. And hopefully, seeing that maybe as like a video project of yours that you film, little bits of you painting the skeletons or doing some of the characters, and just make that like a little, like you did with the 40K second edition box set. Same kind of thing. Yeah, it's like a video blog,
Well, I'm wondering if I actually have another box of 40K in the wings that someone reached out to me and asked me if I wanted it for a price that I couldn't say no to. I should have said no.
Okay.
I said yes. And and I'm wondering if I should just like reboot that project and have another go, almost like every 5 years, do it again and see what I do differently. But this time I I would actually do the Space Marines. I think there were 3 chapters that arrived on Armageddon. There were the Salamanders, the Ultramarines, and the Blood Angels. Maybe do those chapters across the Space Marines, so you have a more kind of diverse force, and maybe do something similar with the Orcs as well. Yeah, I tell you what, if you are after more second edition content, and someone who is actually producing videos more regularly, the video that did really well, actually, probably the highest performing video that I think came out in August, was the Tyrannid versus Ultramarines battle, where we kind of replayed the Macragge scenario, like the last stand of the first company, from that sort of High Fleet Behemoth storyline. And the guy that I played is Matthew from Miniscape. You might have seen that. And he's cranking videos out at the moment and rapidly approaching 10,000 subscribers. So definitely a shout out to Miniscape. And he does a lot of painting tutorials and videos. It's kind of a hobby blog. He's currently working on Chaos, second edition Chaos stuff. And he's done an Abaddon and done the Chaos Terminators with all the spikes and everything, which look amazing. So yeah, that's definitely worth checking out to scratch that itch that I'm currently not.
Sure. I notice his like his logo and everything about that channel is very similar to yours.
So he reached out to me kind of in the early days and said, I've got this idea for a channel. This is the logo. This is what it's called. Is that okay? I was like, yeah, man, sure. That's completely fine.
Okay.
Like,
I always wondered about that. I thought, is he just ripping off Ed's stuff because it just looks exactly like your logo that I'd watch? And I think people get confused between his and your channel. They get very confused.
Frequently do.
I mean, credit to him. I mean, his videos are very successful. I mean, like he produces a lot of content, and if people enjoy it and want to watch it, that's great. I mean, that's I'm not knocking him at all. So I need to check out more of his videos. I haven't done in the past. So I need to go and check out that particular battle report. So I know you did it sort of, you did on your channel, he did on his channel. I watched your video on your channel, but I haven't watched his one. So I need to watch them again to get his perspective on how he did his. And not that I'm comparing it against your videos, but obviously he's doing his own content, and I know he does a lot of hobby stuff, and he produces a lot of stuff. Like, he's pumping out a lot of stuff. Like his
I don't know how he does it because he's a teacher.
He's a teacher. Okay. Yeah. Well, school holidays, mate. That's what it is. School holidays.
Yeah. No, I mean, he's maintaining the level of production throughout now. I think he's just got into a really good groove with it. And I think, well, it's the same with every YouTuber, and it's part of the whole, it's part of what the process really is, that when you look at the progression in terms of the production value, like his is really coming on strong. Like his sound's getting better, his camera's getting better. Like, over time, things just after every video, it's always really good to see. That's
good.
I sent him my mic actually.
Oh, you did? Okay, that's very nice.
So it was not really. I haven't really got time to do this anymore, so I sent him my microphone. I have since repurposed another microphone, so I'm still running potentially. Yeah, but Josh, like your Crown of Command, when you think about where you started with your podcasts and like your camera setup, and you were always very
awful, wasn't it?
well, you were always very kind of I think aware of your limitations with technology, and I feel like you weren't very confident either with it, and you've clearly climbed that mountain, because it's all looking pretty damn sharp at the moment, mate.
Obviously, I haven't paid for the electricity bill because I'm surrounded in darkness now. I'm more darker than you now at the moment. So what am I doing? I'm just going to turn the light on, because now it's now like almost 5:30, and of course it's in winter, so it's getting dark earlier. So just give me 2 seconds. You just have a look at the chat, mate. Have a look at any questions or anything that anybody said. Just 2 seconds.
I will. I'm also going to take out this cookie that Lauren brought back for me.
Where's your cat? There's a fluffy cat. There's a big star of your channel.
I know. She's banged on the door a few times. She could come in if she wanted.
You're eating her cookie. That's why she's not very pleased about that.
I'm always keen to show off my cat to people, even if they're not interested. I've turned to that person. So many times at work, we might be talking about pets or something, and I'm just like, whip out my camera phone. I'm like, here's my cat, and just have like. And sometimes I just become aware
at the end of your videos.
People are not interested. They don't care. It's like, let's look at my baby.
Yeah, just every at the end of every video, I always look forward to seeing your cat at the end. It's always like that last final shot.
And I've sort of stopped doing it, and people go, "Where's the cat?"
Yeah, it's like the Deathwing one. It's like, where's the cat at the end? Like he should. Like I just want to see your cat just like walking across the Space Hulk interior board. That'd be quite cool. But
no, that would have.
Yeah, look, mate. Like I just use my iPhone. I use an iPhone 13, and I use iMovie on my PC here. And I didn't have that. And originally, I just used everything out of my phone. I just used my iMovie to edit everything and all that. I mean, if anybody who put up with those videos early on, I deleted a lot of them because I was that bad. But actually, this channel, it started out as Section 9 Studios. So if anybody can remember that, it was under a totally different name. And the content of everything I did was all about A Song of Ice and Fire, which is based on the George R. Martin novels and that kind of thing. It was a Kickstarter that came out from Simon, Cool Mini or Not. And they had, and me and a friend, we went in on the Kickstarter. We got our stuff. I think we're the only 2 people in Japan who actually have this game. And we started playing together, and I really loved the Starks. And I really wanted to paint the models, and I thought, why not just making some painting videos? And I think I borrowed my camera stand from work, and I had it sort of set up like next to me. So when the view was like on the side kind of thing, so you had to like crook your neck to see, try to see what I was doing. But it was the very early start. And I think I painted Hodor. That's right. Hodor.
Oh, cool.
And Bran. Yeah. And they're great models, and I really enjoy painting those. And oddly enough, it became very successful. I was getting like 1,000 views. I mean, that was amazing for me. I just couldn't believe it. So, and then I started doing more and more of those, and until I got back into Warhammer, and thanks to Song, really, thanks to that game, it got me back into playing rank and flank games because I love the idea of mass battles with miniatures in square formations, and then we got playing 5th edition again, and then I changed to the Crown of Command because of the podcast and all that, and I started doing 5th edition battle reports, mainly during COVID, actually, like during 2020. So that's how it all started, mate. Yeah,
I've heard great things about a SOYAF. I think people have abbreviated it to. Apparently it's a really good game, like a fantastic system. Did you play many games, Josh?
Of A Song of Ice and Fire? Yes, I still play it now. Still play it.
Oh, cool.
Me and Paul, because I got Paul to play it. He invested with his Baratheons. And Hodor, exactly, kind of effects. But it's a really good game. It's a living system. They've got a beautiful app that you got the rules, you got everything, all the cards,
cool,
a whole lot just in a free app. It's amazing, and you can do your list building and that kind of thing. Miniatures are nice. I mean, they're PVC plastic, and I'm really turned off by PVC plastic.
Yeah.
But one of the good things about it now, this is before I said, if someone came up to my table of playing Warhammer Renaissance and I said, hey, can you introduce me to this, this game? Warhammer wouldn't be the first thing I'd introduce them to. I'd get them in through A Song of Ice and Fire.
Right.
The main reason why is that when you buy the miniatures, you buy the starter set. All the miniatures are assembled. There's no assembly.
Oh wow! Okay.
They're all pre-colored. So your faction, like if you like Free Folk, they're pre-colored into like a sort of a gray, like greenish gray, and Starks are like in a light gray, and Lannisters are red and that kind of thing. So you can just put your miniatures on a tray and you're just away. You're just starting. You don't have to. You can just get straight into the rules and just start playing, rolling dice and that kind of thing. Warhammer is a massive investment. It's a dedication thing. It's almost like you're a monk. in a monastery. You're putting the models together. You're doing this. It's a big part of the modeling skill of how to put stuff together, how to clean miniatures properly, how to prime them, paint them, and that kind of thing. Song is just like, get those things on the tray and just start rolling for it. And it's a great way to get people into rank and flank games. And if they like that and they want to make that next step into the big boys club of getting these models and putting them together and cleaning off sprues and all that kind of stuff, go down the big rabbit hole. That's a good step. But
well,
yeah, great game.
I really like the sound of there are obviously a lot of very well loved characters in the Game of Thrones universe that are not really combat characters. So the idea that you can take those models in your army and they won't necessarily have an impact on the battlefield, but they do strategically, I think is really interesting. That you can have Cersei, plotting in the background, which is going to have a sort of strategic impact on the game. That's really cool.
Yeah, I hate her guts. Every time she gets played, she does something horrible, like it's all morale. Like she just, Lannisters, I just hate Lannisters. I hate them in the show. I just want to kill all of them. So that's why I'm a Stark player through and through. For the North. I just need that northern accent now when I play. But it's got a great theme. I've never read the books. I've only watched the TV series, and I think that's all you really need, And even if you didn't watch the TV series, you didn't read the books, I think it's got enough in it that you'll be attracted by something in there.
It sounds like it is rules wise like one of the best ones out there. And in terms of the rank and flank, like they're quite spaced out on their movement trays, aren't they?
That's another really good point because, and I don't want to put anybody off Warhammer. I think Warhammer's a beautiful game and I love it. Obviously, I play it. I've been obsessed with it for years. But the good thing about Song is that the infantry regiments are 12 models. That's it. They don't get any bigger. They don't get any smaller. The cavalry are 4 models. So for just a painting modeling side of things, you could get into it quite easily, paint your units fairly, quickly, and get them on the table and start playing if you wanted to paint them. Whereas Warhammer, it's like 5 to however big you want it. You know what I mean? So 5 to 20, 5 to 30, something like that.
Yeah. Cool.
So
I might have to get into that. I have a few friends who are interested, but kind of time poor with children and all that kind of stuff. And we've had a couple of false starts with Warhammer in terms of sitting around and painting stuff up, and it's just too much. It's too much. So I think a game like that would be ideal, actually, because you can just get, like you say, you can just get started straight away out the box, and then the painting is sort of secondary thing.
You could literally just buy the box in the store, open it up, put all the stuff on the table, and away you go.
Great.
That's one of the great things about it, I think. And the guys who developed the game, they come from a Warhammer background. So they played Warhammer 8th edition, 7th edition. They played the strategy battle game from Lord of the Rings. So it's a lot of those kind of elements and rules that sort of built into the game as well. So it's quite familiar when you play. It's not like it's totally something completely new. So you have a lot of things that have come through the history of those kind of fantasy games built into the rules as well. But it's really really clean, really less ambiguous in a lot of respects to Warhammer. It's a living rule book, which is a great thing, so that they update it and change it based on feedback, based on other things. Maybe something doesn't work as well, they change it. So there's an evolution to the game, which is interesting as well.
Yeah, great.
Like I like new games too. I like, it's not like, I think maybe people think that I'm just encapsulated and trapped in the past. That's not such the case. I always have my finger on the pulse and look at different things. If something really grabs me, then I really get into it. But it's quite rare that I do that.
Okay. I always assumed that was your Crown of Command persona. That's
the thing, and I love, of course, if I could play one game forever, it'd probably be Epic Space Marine. I could just play that all the time. Just love it. But I love 2nd edition for the way it plays. Warhammer 4th and 5th edition mainly. Warhammer Renaissance, of course. Blood Bowl, played that now with Paul quite a bit, and that's really good. I really enjoy that. I love playing Necromunda with him too, which is really good as well.
Cool.
Advanced Hero Quest, absolutely love that game, adore it. Hero Quest, the regular game. Confrontation is another love of mine. That I know it's not hugely popular, but I love the models, love painting them, miniatures, and the games are pretty good too. You know, they got some credit to them. So yeah, I've dabbled a bit.
Yeah.
So
just thinking back to a previous question that was asked about the Holy Grail, for me, because you just got me thinking by going through all those games. I was like, oh god, what am I missing? What would I love to have? Tyrannid Attack.
Oh wow, yeah.
I would love to. I think something that would definitely. I think the best videos that you make, and I wonder if you've found this, Josh, is the best videos that you make are not the ones that you feel you need to make, but the ones you want to make.
Exactly.
And it's communicated, and it kind of trying to chase an algorithm or trying to guess what people want, or looking at what other people are doing that are popular, or I'm gonna mimic that. It's don't do that. It's not going to make you happy.
No.
It's not going to make your audience happy. Like
No.
the best musicians, the best artists, they're not trying to please people. They're trying to do things for themselves. And even if they're commissioned to do a piece of work, they sort of use that as an excuse to actually do the thing that they want to do.
That's right.
It's kind of my philosophy. So the idea of restoring a Tyrannid Attack box set to its full glory, and then playing a few games on the channel.
Oh, mate, that'd be awesome. I'd love to see that.
Yeah,
I'd love to see that. Now, the old is it Old Hammered?
He had a very high performing video on that, didn't he?
Yeah. Oh, mate, I said to, because he did it just before I interviewed him on the Crown of Command, and it had soared up to like something like, I don't know what it was, 10,000 views or something. I said, mate, you know, congratulations, because you found a golden gem there, because you got so many views on that, and I think it got up to over 70,000 views, that one video of him just opening up the box and looking through the contents. I was really interested too, because I've never seen it, and I think it's one of those games that came in and it was quickly phased out. You know what I mean? Like it just came in very quickly and it was just gone. So it's really nice that he did that video, because it just gave some really cool insights as to the contents and looking through the materials and that kind of thing.
And there are a few other games of that era. Like I have the Armageddon board game, which is really good. It's a fantastic kind of strategic. I think it's based on a lot of the kind of World War II board games of maybe the late 70s, early 80s.
Yeah.
That's a fantastic game. Really well balanced and really feels very 40K. And you get that strategic overlay that you don't get in second edition. And if you cut the orcs off their supply line, then you destroy their armies. There's that idea that there are supply lines. So it's quite crunchy in that respect. And it's great to be commanding forces on a scale even bigger than Epic. You know, I'd guess that you're playing in one game of Armageddon, you're probably playing the equivalent of hundreds of games of Epic. It really is like a sweeping grand narrative. Yeah. And when you bring in your Space Marine legions, it really feels like, this is the Battle of Arnhem kind of thing. Like it feels really important. Yeah. And around the same time, they also did one. I can't remember what it was called, but it's the same kind of idea, but it's Tyranids attacking an Eldar craft world.
What was it called again? Doom something, wasn't it?
Doom of the Eldar?
That's it, Doom of the Eldar.
Yeah. And that sounds amazing. And, there's a point in it. Like, there's always, like, I think you're allowed to bring in the Space Marines in Armageddon, like in the third battle round or something. So it's sort of, it's like, this could be the turning point. And I think Doom of the Eldar has that as well. When, is it Prince Uriel or something? He's sort of, he's a guy who's been banished and no one thinks he's coming back. And he comes in to sort of, almost a kind of Two Towers moment from Lord of the Rings, where, the cavalry arrive and sweep the orcs off the field. It's almost like the same moment in Doom of the Eldar. And they also did, I think they did another Armageddon one, but it was for the first Battle of Armageddon.
Was it a Horus Heresy? They did Horus Heresy too, didn't they? In that
Yeah, they did Horus Heresy
series. Yeah.
Oh, yeah. I mean, that would be cool. And Fantasy Flight kind of rebooted that in the 2000s and had lots of miniatures for it and things. But those kind of games I find really interesting. I think, unfortunately, there's no real kind of restoration involved with those. And maybe filming a game of it isn't as interesting just because of the visuals of it. But I dare say someone like, Carnifex with this, with this 3D printer contacts and things, it'd be quite cool to actually restore it in that you create game pieces for all of the units in one of those. That would be pretty amazing.
Yeah. Yeah, they made some good stuff back in the early 90s. That's kind of my love of Games Workshop, around that time when the creative, spurt of things, they started rolling out so much stuff during that time and everything was really quality.
Mm-hmm.
So, yeah, I do remember picking up Battle for Armageddon and playing it once. And I think that was it. And I don't know what happened to it after that.
Yeah.
But I would like to play it again. Someone sent me a file. I think David sent me a file where you can print out all the contents. You can print out the board and everything, all the chits and stuff like that.
Cool.
So I should give it another go because, it looks like a really fun game.
Yeah.
So,
it is really fun. And it again, like another aspirational thing would be playing through the campaign and then maybe isolating some cool points in it where you think, okay, we're going to build an entire game of Epic or second edition 40k around that particular battle. Like that would be cool. As I wonder if they did that with second edition 40k. Like there's a fantastic Bill King writes this great big long narrative in the rules book of Armageddon,
right,
which is abridged quite substantially in the campaign booklet for second edition, and it reads. Once you've played Armageddon, it reads like he's narrating a game that he watched the studio play, and it's almost like the lore, as they used to do in the glory days of Warhammer, that what happened on the tabletop would dictate the story, the narrative. Like what happened to Captain Tycho, for example. Like he's a character who's born out of a famous game of second edition 40k, and it feels like they're doing that, and it feels like one of the players, who knows, maybe it was Andy Chambers or someone, dropped his Blood Angels outside Hive Acheron or whatever in a bid to try and cut the supply lines and defeat Ghazghkull. And maybe that's what happened in their game. Like that wasn't something which was kind of dreamed up by Bill King. It's something that he just simply wrote up for the story. I love that kind of stuff. Yeah,
because Bill was a gamer too, and I think I talked to Lewis about that from the Old Hammer Fiction podcast, and he's of the same opinion. Like because he was a gamer, he understood what all this stuff was about. So his writing sort of felt like you're playing the game, or is maybe a game he played or he watched or something like that. He sort of really got the whole thing, you know what I mean? Whereas other writers were sort of more detached from maybe they didn't really get the setting so well or whatever, but Bill really got it. So that was pretty cool. And I know that he worked in the same office space as Chambers did. So no doubt he was probably involved with the games development. And another game I forgot to mention, which is just in the corner there, was Man of War. Man of War is a game that, again, sort of came in very quickly, and as a specialist game, we got shipped it out. And then if you didn't pick up your chance of getting it, it was pretty hard to get later on. Not many people have actually played it. It's a fantastic game. I only got it recently in Japan from a guy who was selling, who graciously allowed me to buy his secondhand copy. And I played a game remotely this morning. It's one of the best games they've ever made. And as long as with Epic Space Marine, I'll put that into the golden category, the top three: Warhammer, Epic Space Marine, and Man of War. It is that good, And Bill King was part of that as well. Bill King was part of the development of that.
What makes it so good? What did you enjoy about this morning's game?
With each faction, they've somehow built into the rules of each of the ships, like all the ships you take with your faction. So if I play the dwarves, it really feels like I'm playing a dwarf faction. If you're playing the elves, it really feels like you are playing elves, even though you're playing just ships,
Yeah.
And I think that's the brilliant thing about it. So the dwarves have got they've got engineers aboard their ships, and they're all steam run as well, so they don't care about the wind, in which direction the wind's going. They can just spin on the spot. They can do all these kind of maneuvers that other ships can't. So it feels already that these are dwarves. They're big ironclads. They're fully encased. You can't board them because they're fully sealed. Only the dwarves know the intricate unlocks of how to open up the ships and that kind of thing. They've got like runesmiths aboard so they can dispel magic and stuff like that. So they're intrinsically built into the rules of like Warhammer into these ships. So they've got the theme down pat, and the rules themselves were kind of a departure from normal games in that it's all alternate activations. So I would activate one of my squadrons or one of my independent ships, and you would activate one of your independent ships or squadrons, and it would go back and forth like that.
And is that randomly determined, or do you just alternate who goes?
You just alternate first? Yeah. So you say, okay, I'm going to activate my dwarf ironclad and move it and shoot it.
Yeah.
And resolve all of its actions, and then you would say, okay, I'm going to activate my man of war and move it and shoot and that kind of thing. You had the cards for the man of war cards, which are basically like magic items. They're all randomly drawn out. So you get one free for your man of war, and then you pay extra to get more, and you put those onto your ship, and it gives you like better armor, or you get an extra gun, or you get special. Like today, I had these cutthroat crew, which are basically all these ruffians that added +1 to my boarding actions, or I could use that card to save one of my crew if they died or something in a boarding action.
Cool.
And Chris had an extra cannon or an extra shot on one of. He's got like a crow's nest gun, so he could fire an extra shot. So it's got magic in there as well. So you got like all the College of Magics and that kind of thing as well. So yeah, they've just built Warhammer into a naval game. Now, I'm not a naval gamer at all. I've never been interested in it, but this game just gets me. I want to come back again and again. So it's such a great game.
You piqued my interest. That sounds wicked.
And it's a skirmish game, so you only need what 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, maybe 6 to 7 models aside. That's it.
Yeah. Did you have a little island in the middle or anything? Did you have any terrain, as it were?
Yeah, so the game comes with like 2D terrain. So you got like islands and sand barges and that kind of thing. And I've made my own 3D terrain, which is really simple. I did a video on that, making a
I've seen that actually. I love that.
Yeah,
it's great.
So that's really
and you based that off the 2D terrain.
That's exactly right. So
nice.
Yeah, really, really fun game. So I'm going to release Cameron, one of the guys at the Crown of Command community, he made a video on Man of War, how to get into it. Like if you've never played it before, where would you go to get resources? Where would you go to get the models? Where would you get the game materials and all that kind of thing? So he goes through the whole thing in a video, which I'll release as an audio on the podcast, and you can find the link for that. I'll have to put. Now that I mentioned it, I'll put it in the description later on. But I think it's called Kraken something or other. He's got like.
I'd be really interested to check that out. Actually,
yeah, you should watch it, mate. It's really well done. It's his first video that he's ever done, and it's really good. I said, man, you're making videos better than I do. So he's just fantastic. So everyone should go and check that out and give Cameron a like on his video. All the time he's put into that, trying to grow the Man of War community. Talking about community, we're going to have a quick presentation. As we're sort of almost at the 2-hour mark here, Ed. So I'm going to just show a slideshow of our glorious bastards. Maybe you're familiar with these glorious bastards, or maybe not. But basically, it's just like a bit of a shout out to our community on our Discord and all the fabulous work they're doing there. So as the Mr. What do I call this guy? Phil. That's right, our mail order troll. He goes and picks out some pretty outstanding entries for the week. So first we've got Bry. He's an Australian, good old Aussie, an Aussie bastard, glorious bastard with his, looks like Beastman chariots.
Those are cool. So those, it looks like, are those warthogs taken from the orc kit?
They certainly look like, they certainly look like the boars from the orc
Yeah.
boar set, don't they?
Those are terrific.
So
is that an actual kit, or has he scratch built those, or?
I think they're actual kits from 5th edition.
Okay.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I'm pretty sure.
They're lovely.
Yeah, they're really nice. Yeah, Bright is a nice little, sort of, he always presents them very well, photographs them very, very nicely in his little photo booth and backdrop and that kind of thing.
I like the basing, almost sort of felt basing to match the table. I haven't seen that before. That's really nicely done.
Of all that, because normally this kind of basing, personally, I don't like, but Bry actually does a good job of it because he's got some kind of. It's one of those things where he can lift the hairs, the fibers on the base, so it's actually standing upright perfectly. You know what I mean? He's got one of those special basing tools to do that, which it works out well with the black rim and everything. Looks good.
Yeah.
So well done, Bry. They look great, mate. Now this is Matthias Hedström from Sweden with his excellent entry of a Dogs of War champion. Maybe someone in the comments will know if he's a special character or not. I forget, but I know he's definitely a Dogs of War guy he's using for his Empire army.
He's cool. That armor is actually really nicely done, isn't it?
Yeah, he does like all his Empire done in this really nice, very dramatic, dark color scheme. So Matthias pulls it off really nicely. He does some really nice banners, freehand banners too.
Borgio the Besieger, says Odgit's Hut.
Good on you, Ted. Thanks, mate. Trust my
kingdom. Cool. He does look like a besieger. It looks like he could take down a wall with that mace of his.
It looks like he stole the mace off the ogre from what's it called, Battle Masters. Looks like he just took that thing off him, basically.
Yeah. Jared says, "Bonjour, the procedure."
Classic. Now they've got this Knights of the Blazing Sun. Now this is from Fortis, and Fortis likes to put these into sort of these old school White Dwarf images, which is really cool. But
so is that another Dogs of War character, or is that a sort of sect of the Empire?
I've got a feeling this is a conversion. So he's basically taken the Hero of the Empire Perry model, and then cut off the head of the champion, like the Grand Master of the Blazing Suns.
Cool.
And also changed the sword arm, I think, as well. But guys in the comments can correct me if I'm wrong, but I think that's what he's done.
Yeah. So those are all metal bits, are they?
All metal bits. Yeah.
That's
this is very early 4th edition. Yeah. Really nice. So really well done. I like what Fortis does. He does these nice presentations, like in the heavy metal pages. We're really cool.
Yeah, that's great.
So well done, mate. And this is from Robert, I believe. Sorry, I don't have your names on there. I just committed to memory. As foggy as it is.
Like this weird boy is so unhinged that he needs 4 minders rather than 2. He's such a handful.
Yeah, these are really nice. I saw them, and he done a video on. I found his videos on YouTube, where he's doing a showcase of his entire Rogue Trader Orc army.
Cool.
With some really cool stuff in it as well. And I thought it was really nice. This cool color scheme, something a bit different. Some Mad Boys with some purple and white. And he's got the Warp Head guy there with his bolter and chainsword. So it's really cool. I like it.
That's a cool color scheme as well. Kind of violet and white.
Yeah, I think it's nice. It works. It works well. Something a little bit different.
Carnifex is nailing it. We're fixated on Borgio's mace here. He says it is a cannonball that failed to kill him.
Yeah, that's exactly right.
And then he's followed it up with a Dark Souls reference. Praise the sun.
Well, you've got to be mad to play Dark Souls, that's for sure. I don't know anybody could play that game and still be sane by the end of it.
I completed it 2 weeks ago.
You did?
And,
well done, mate.
Yeah. yeah, it was
Well, that's the reason why you haven't been making any videos for YouTube. Then that's why you're playing Dark Souls.
Yeah, I know.
The secret's out.
It's done. I can put that behind me. Oh, look at these guys. But so we were banging on at length about Rogue Trader Terminators, and here they are.
Yeah, I found this one just for you. This is from John from our Crown of Command community page on Facebook. And he recently played these in a game. And I thought that's such a cool idea because, of course, you always see the loyalist Marines like Blood Angels, Dark Angels, whatever.
Yeah.
But I love these Chaos Terminators. I think they're so bloody cool, especially the captain and the skull-capped guys. They're just so cool.
Great color scheme.
Yeah.
And also a advanced Hero Quest Dreadnought as well.
Yes. I got the Space Crusade, like the old design. I love the old design of the Chaos Dreadnought personally. I think that's such a great looking model. So yeah,
beautiful.
Yeah. So there you go. They're all our glorious bastards there, mate. So I hope you enjoyed that.
I did very much. I wasn't expecting that at all.
Oh, that's good. I'm glad. Well, you won't be expecting this quiz I'm going to give you right now. So this is so
I've got to go, mate.
Get your quiz cap on because we've got Andy's Codex Inquisition. So there you go. It's all about 40 because I know you're a 40K man. So this will be just 40K questions from Andy Chambers himself from 1996. Okay, so here we go. So Andy says, I've worked on my fair share of army books and codexes at the studio. Here are some questions based on the rules and background I've invented. 1. Who killed Bone Ripper? Well, actually, this is not a 40K question. This is a fantasy question. Now, Bone Ripper is, of course, the rat ogre that accompanies Thankwall, the character in Bill King's books. That's a bit of a clue.
It's basically 50-50 chance of it either being Felix or Gottrill.
Gottrick.
So it's either Gottrick or Felix. If it's not one of those and it's one of the supporting cast members, I'm not going to get it right. I'm going to say Felix.
Gottrick. You're almost there. He's a troll, so mate. Of course, he's going to kill Bone Ripper. So yeah. Okay. So yeah. If you've never listened to the there's and I'll send you a link to that, mate. Is an audio book based on the Skaven Slayer book from Bill King. It is absolutely brilliant. You just
on Audible.
Yeah, on Audible. Yeah,
I've listened to it, mate. So I should really know that.
Oh wow, okay. I love that. That was the best thing. Like when he did the Skaven voices and the squirting of musk or something. They squirt the musk of fear.
Oh yeah, they are constantly squirting musk in fear, aren't they?
That's awesome. I loved it. I love that.
Yeah, they're great.
Number 2. Now this is more of a 40K one. Which Hive fleet was defeated by the Imperium at Macragge?
Bearmoth.
Was it? I don't know. I have to check the answer. This is how much I know about.
You don't need to check, Josh.
You don't. I don't need to check. You're right. Yes, you're right. Well
Behemoth. I just get my pronunciation
Behemoth.
right.
Very good. Thank you.
Carnifex says that Gotrek killed him by accident by farting very hard.
Well, I don't know. I'm sure he knows more than I do. If he knows the integral details of that particular killing, but could have been. Number 3. By what name is Fabius Bile known on Arden 9? So by what name is Fabius Bile known on Arden 9? I have no idea. But I've got the answers here. Yeah, he's like the. I won't say he's affiliated.
He's Emperor's Children. The chirurgeon, maybe. I don't know.
Yeah, he's the guy with all the vials and the syringes, and he has that big, thing on the back of him. He's a pretty cool model, actually. I like him. Any guesses?
I guess. Well, his like machine on the back is called the chirurgeon or something, isn't it?
Chirurgeon.
I don't know. He's probably known as like the doctor or the surgeon or something like that.
The Man Flayer.
Goodness me.
There you go.
Yeah.
Never knew that.
Okay. Never knew that. How am I doing? I'm 1 for 3.
1 for 3 so far. 1 for 3. Okay, number 4. If you're fighting Tyranids, you always what? Sorry. If you're fighting Tyranids, what always happens to Jones?
He acts strangely.
Very good. Okay, nice. 5. What kind of special grenades do Nurgle Plague Marines carry? Oh, that's easy.
Plague grenades?
I think so. I think they're called plague grenades.
Blight grenades.
I think blight grenades would be the one. I think. Yeah, blight grenades. Yep.
Yeah.
So number 4, he explodes into a barbed strangler.
Oh, yeah, I knew that. But he always acts strangely.
Jones is, acting strangely. Jones acts strangely. So he explodes into a barbed strangler. Okay.
Yeah.
Well, there you go. That's Andy's Codex Inquisition questions. I hope you enjoyed those.
Well, thank you, Mr. Chambers. I enjoyed that very much.
From 1996. There you go. I'm not making it up.
Wonderful.
But
lovely stuff.
Mate, look, it has been an absolute fantastic opportunity. Like I said before we came to go live, that I really love asking people back on that I enjoy talking to on the podcast. So I'm just glad that your wife allowed you to sit in her office and come and talk to me for 2 hours, mate.
Well, it is a Saturday. She doesn't have the use of it today. But it was lovely. Really nice to catch up, Josh. Amazing to catch up and talk about what you're working on, and talk about the things that we enjoy.
Yeah, well, that's it. I love passionate people about, like you said. I like talking to people who do things on YouTube, or creators, or whatever they might do, podcast makers or whatever, who just do what they love to do. So and that shows in what they make. So mate, I really hope, and I think I won't be alone here to say that we hope that you make more videos, and I think the vampire counts thing would be great. And not just for views, I mean, just for yourself, just to document your hobby progress into something that's very new for you, because fantasy is not something that you're really familiar with, and you're sort of just starting out. Maybe your goals and your hurdles in fantasy, putting together the models or painting them or things like that. I think that'd be really good. I think people would love that. So
well, at the very least, I will be a bit more active on the Discord, and I'll put up some pictures on there and on my Instagram. I think somebody in the comments asked what my Instagram was. It's Ed Paints Minis.
Right.
I think it's Ed_Paints Minis. But if you put Ed Paints Minis in there, it should pop up. But I will definitely document that journey in one way, shape, or form.
I think it'd be nice. I think people like that, and Instagram's a great place for that, because it's just all photos. So but please send me your links. I'll put them in the description of the video. So people who are watching this, please check those out. You can see Ed's YouTube video, Minisodes. So go and check that out for more 2nd edition and Space Hulk content now. And
I'll also put a link to the 2nd edition battle report we did on Tabletop Tactics.
Please do.
That's
and
well worth a look. I mean, it's the only example out there of a 2nd edition battle report with sky high production values. It's it's
you can't beat that. I mean, what he does is amazing. So I'm really glad you're part of that teammate, and you're sort of nudging in the 2nd edition angle there
where I can.
Well, you can. That's good. Even if you're playing like 2nd edition models, playing 10th edition rules, I think that'll be pretty cool too. That all works for everybody. But again, everyone, thank you for joining the chat. For everyone who's been here, who's added some comments and contributions to the conversation and dialogue, I really appreciate that. So especially Camilo and Carnifex, and is it Kim? I forget what the second part of your Kim Nix was very active on here. And Alex, hello, and Johnny Watson joined us. Hello, mate. Thank you very much. And of course, Carnifex has spewed out a lot of stuff out here, which is great, and helping out with the chat here and moderating that, which is excellent. And 3D Foundry, how you going, buddy? That's also another great David. David out in France. Is it France or Belgium? I can't remember. Another great guy. He has a lot of really nice stuff. But Ed, look, mate, thanks again. Leave us your links. I'll chuck them in the description. People can go and contact there on Instagram or go and check out Tabletop Tactics and everything that you do and keep following you there. And like I said, I hope you bring up some more content in the future and give your cat a good cuddle after the show.
Oh, I will. Thanks very much, Josh. And
Okay.
happy hobbying, everyone.
Thank you. Thanks for everybody. Take care. Bye-bye.